Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you want to know what's happening in the Finger Lakes? We do too. We're going in depth with decision makers in the heart of upstate New York to get the answers you need. From the team of FingerLakes1.com, this is Inside the FLX.
All right, welcome back to Inside the FLX. Last week, Geneva City Council held its meeting for the month of June, and joining us by Zoom is Mayor Steve Valentino. So let's start here. We're halfway through 2024. I'm sure you can't believe it, but halfway, how does it feel? We're through June with a new city council for you guys compared to last year. When you get to this point in the year, you've had some meetings under your belt, does it start to feel a little different?
Yeah, honestly, it feels like things are really coming together, and not just as a council, but, city as a whole and staff. We've got a city manager that really has been acclimated to the city and has got her feet underneath her. We have David West, our Director of Economic Development and Planning, who's really hit the ground running. And, I know we'll talk about our new police chief, but our new city clerk. I mean, just everything's coming together. And councilors are still hungry and eager to learn more and know more. So there's still that learning curve that's taking place, but there's definitely a level of understanding that's starting to set in right now, which is really nice. So I can see things kind of changing gears. We have a lot going on with assessments and, working on the budget right now. So there's a lot of things happening. Nothing stands still for long, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Let's talk about maybe the biggest news that came out, I want to say before the meeting, but it involved the Trinity project. Obviously a big development there. Developer is pulling out, not going forward currently, but it sounds like there's still some hope for the property. That obviously that's still a priority, right?
Yeah, and I think there's probably people standing up and applauding the fact that the project is not moving forward. There's a lot of resistance by a lot of the surrounding homeowners, especially in the historic district. They thought it was going to be an adverse impact. But when you look at the property and maybe the future of the property, and we knew it was always a challenging project, but I think there's anything you can do to save that property, save that building would mean a lot to the city of Geneva.
Yeah, I'm curious because obviously we had done plenty of interviews. I even believe we interviewed the developer a couple times many years ago when this was sort of first bubbling up, and some of those concerns it involved the traffic and things like that in the area. I'm curious though, what would be the expectation if not a development like this? What else would go in a church other than a congregation? And unfortunately, we see that the trends in religion, it isn't going that direction. Congregations are shrinking year in and year out. What is, what's even in play for something like that would satisfy all parties?
Well, yeah, the only thing I've seen in my experience, not only, in surrounding communities, but other states, is I've seen older armories and older churches converted into housing, senior housing, or multi-apartments. So I've seen that be successful in different areas. My son actually lived in Chicago in one of those facilities one time for a couple of years, and it was very well developed, and the building is sound for sure.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you have a good roof on it, it's just what you do with the interior. So there's a lot of options out there, I think, but finding somebody to develop it and do something, that would benefit the community, I think is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about, there was a public hearing on the agenda, short-term rentals. This has obviously been a thing you guys have been working on for many, many months now. Talk to us about where that stands right now and what you guys heard, if anything.
So, that landscape is always changing, and I think Councilor Grimaldi seems to be fairly close to a lot of things happening in that area. He just sent an email to the city council about new state legislature that's on the governor's desk right now. So the reason our ordinance didn't go for a second reading in June and is moved to July was because of some of the legal language that still needed to be reviewed. So, as the courts are being challenged with short-term rentals, as the legalities or laws are being changed with short-term rentals, we're trying to be as effective and as costly as possible. That what we put in place is legal and it's binding and it's something we can implement without any major court actions. Interestingly enough, nobody came forward for short-term rental in the hearing. And it's been very quiet because I think the ordinance that we are proposing to put into place is something that will benefit the community and benefit the short-term rental owners. So I think we're doing the right things. We did pass a resolution for the $250 per bedroom fee at our last meeting. So we're moving forward, but moving forward a little cautiously based on the climate that's going on in the legal battles.
I was going to say, how important is that to get it right the first time and not have a situation where maybe version 1 or version 2 is legally challenged and then there's a years long process on that?
Yeah, if you took a look at some of the complaints from some of the residents, we probably should have come in a lot harder. But when you sit there and listen to both sides of the stories, I think what we've done with our ordinance is being able to put something in there for accountability and not cross any lines and not impact any of the people that have already done investments, but also trying to protect our neighborhoods. So, I think what we've done, or what I will say staff and legal has done, is provide us the direction that gives us that level of accountability. Most of your short-term rental owners are perfectly okay with it. They're okay with being held accountable for providing the right kind of structures and environments in the neighborhoods, and also offering a lot of opportunities for tourists. And, I think we just had the alumni visit, and I bet you those short-term rentals were packed.
Yeah, absolutely. Always about striking a balance there. Let's talk a little bit about the police department now. Permanent leader identified, internal promotion. I guess typically that's probably the best route to go. How do you feel now about having this settled out, having a police chief, a permanent police chief, and being able to move forward there?
And Josh, I'm excited. The process provided the best candidate came forward. Monday is going to be the actual swearing-in ceremony, so I'm looking forward to that. Chief Eveland, he did a great job stepping in when he needed to. He's done a great job in his career. And I think he's got a great legacy with his father and his grandfather in the police department. So I think he's going to be a very proud chief. I think he's going to be very effective. He's going to be good for the community. He's always been involved in the community. So I think, his position is going to be one that kind of takes this police department into the future. I really, I think, I compliment Amy Hendricks and the team that did all the interview process and the questions that were asked and the thoroughness of the process of finding the best candidate for the position. And it's great that you can promote from internal. It doesn't happen all the time. And but when that does happen, I think it kind of shows that previous, like Chief Pasolaco, has built a legacy of having some kind of depth into his organization, which means a lot to the community, definitely.
Yeah, I do want to ask watching this process play out, obviously led by the city manager's office, seemed to be among the least political processes I've ever seen play out for a role as important as chief of police in any municipality across the entire Finger Lakes. Do you chalk that up to the city manager's ability to navigate these types of processes, or do you chalk it up to the current city council, who seems to be more willing to let the city manager do her job, or some combination of both?
I think it's a great combination of both. Our city charter says we're not going to micromanage. So I think it's very important that city council focuses on policies and not on the day-to-day activities, because we hold our city manager accountable for those actions. But I also think the city manager has been very astute in her ability to read the community, to understand what the community is looking for, and not just the Geneva community, but the wider community, or even the national climate, to really understand, there needs to be a level of transparency. We need to be looking forward, not only to protect our citizens, but also to build a police force that has the ability and the latitude to be able to negotiate, to be part of the community and not just be, the law enforcers of the community. So I think that process has been transparent and has provided the results, I think, that are going to be great for the community.
Lots of changes the last 2 years for the Geneva Police Department, both political and not. How impressive is it to you that the folks within the department have been able to keep going out there, doing their job every day, seemingly unbothered by everything that's been happening around them?
Yeah, an amazing group of men and women. I can't compliment them enough. And, there's been a lot of turmoil, but, I'll compliment Chief Passalacca for kind of stepping back in and calming the waters a little bit. So, we're very thankful for him. But the day-to-day activities, they understand the responsibilities. It's just amazing for a group of people to kind of weather the storm and be able to deal with all the different emotions that come up. And, since 2020, their job has not been easy. And hopefully they can look forward to some calmer waters and some much more benefits. I know that we're going to be working with the community compact. We're going to be developing a tighter relationship between the police department and the community. I can see that actually growing. So I think, what you're going to see in the next couple of years is going to be a transformation of our police department being a little more relaxed, but being as efficient as they have been in the last.
Yeah, very good stuff. Let's talk about the Welcome Center. I got a couple reader questions. Folks who had, I think, seen the agenda and were a little confused about what the relationship is between the city and the state and what the partnership looks like that actually runs the Welcome Center. There were a couple items at the tail end of the agenda. So could you just sort of distill this down for the average listener or viewer, how the city interacts with the state to make or fund the Welcome Center and how it operates?
Yeah, let's just back up a step, because originally that was supposed to be the boat museum, and that was financially negative impact to the city of $250,000 plus. And so Senator Zolio, I couldn't compliment him enough for being able to help us with the funding to be able to move things forward, to have the Welcome Center put in originally. And we had an outside contractor actually running the events there. And we did that for 2 years, but it really didn't establish such a great relationship or benefit for the community and visitors. And then the state came by and decided they wanted to upgrade the Welcome Center. I can't thank them enough. I mean, that Welcome Center is gorgeous. So the relationship is, it is still the city's building. We are responsible for maintenance and repairs of that building. So that's where we have a relationship with the state. And if you look, I think it escalates, I think 3% a year, but right now it's up to $125,000 of reimbursement. And our city comptroller gave us the numbers probably for the last 5 years. And we're going to be above that this year, where I think we're up at $150,000 projected. And I think the challenge is we need to be able to communicate with the state that we're really just looking for a break even. It's a great facility. We want to be able to promote it. We do have a contractor in there that runs the concessions. So everything that goes on in there, we have a relationship with that vendor that they provide those services. And the city doesn't make any money off of that. But the services to the tourists and the community, I think, are very beneficial. So, it's up to us to maintain the building. It's up to us to continue that relationship with the state. And it's pretty simple. As long as we, any upgrades or any repairs are our responsibility, but the state does reimburse us for the majority of that.
I'm curious because now it feels like it's been an absolute eternity. It's hard to recall those days before the Welcome Center was there. How important is it to the city and tourism around Geneva that the Welcome Center is there and obviously remain?
Well, yeah, I think it's a great place to stop, and I can't thank the state enough for promoting. This is probably one of the premier Welcome Centers in the state. When we had the eclipse, it was the go-to place for sure. And, for us having that on our lakefront, you could kind of reel it back to the old, I think it was a Chamber of Commerce building. And the biggest thing that happened there, I think, was the Lake Trout Derby, where they did the weigh-ins. So, for now, you see people stopping. It is a busy place, especially during the season. You see people stopping there constantly. It is the go-to place where people come, and maybe that's the first stop they do in the region, and then from there they disperse throughout the Finger Lakes community. So for us, I think it's a great draw to our city, and you'll see people that stop at the visitor center, and then they actually will check out the city too. So the DRI, the road guide for 5 and 20, all that comes together where we get a lot more visitors on our lakefront, which is what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Last bit here, floor is yours. Looking back at the meeting, for you, what stood out? What were maybe the biggest takeaways from the whole meeting?
Well, I think, what we're doing right now is just trying to do some cleanup activities, and try to keep things moving. We did have to do a budget amendment where we are dealing with some sewer laterals. Unfortunately, I was right just in the newly done DRI in our downtown. So we had to take care of that. Fortunately, it wasn't as severe as we thought. Councilor Pachopoulos is really pushing for some kind of food store in that ward. I think that's great, and I'm glad he's pushing for that. I think we're all pushing for that. We would have liked to seen it happen a long time ago. It's really just trying to attract a supermarket or a food retailer in that area is a major challenge. And then, we're doing cleanup on policies. 2 months ago, we actually did a policy on policies. And we just did a credit card policy. Well, we see more of them come to the table. We have a lot of these unwritten rules or unwritten policies, and now we're putting on a piece of paper to try to get some level of accountability. So, staff is doing a great job. David West is really moving things forward. We had to do a resolution that allowed us to agree for fair housing. And if we didn't do that, we would not be out for the opportunities for DRI grants. Only it passed, the resolution passed, which was good.
Do you have any concerns about that prospect, though? The fact that the state is essentially putting in new benchmarks every year that kind of dictate whether cities like yours will be able to get funding in the future?
Nobody's ever pleased with the state forcing issues on you. And we'd like to see the funding get increased. But I think, we've learned to navigate those waters. I think it's been a challenge. I mean, if you look back on the IDA had a lot of latitude. And when the IDA was, the state made some rules and changes with the IDA, we had to develop the LDC in order to be able to still have some of those abilities in the city to provide economic development for not only profits, but nonprofits. So I think, as the state makes those changes, we have to be smart. We have to work with NICOM. We have to be flexible enough to understand how to navigate through those issues to still be able to be eligible for state and federal funding. It's important to us. I mean, we were a distressed city in the late 90s. We've really come out of that distressed city atmosphere, and now we're in a good position to keep control our economic development growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Mayor, appreciate the time. Grateful for it as always. We'll be talking to you next month.
Thank you very much, Josh. Take care.